Hi, everybody. I am back. I am going to be pre recording content for the next few days just because I need Wednesday to rest so I can do Twitch on Thursday. I'm not 100%. I'm enough to get myself up and, washed and dressed and all that stuff. Semblance of doing my hair, though not really. But it is going to be a bit of a slow road back. The patrons are going to get the whole gory and in parts disgusting story. If you want to hear the gory details of what I've been going through for the last few days, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeettaK. Wow, what an incentive, right? But I like it because I don't have to put all the details in public. That's against my instincts as an entertainer. I've been doing this way too long for this to be an I share everything kind of thing. You guys don't need to know that. But it is, there is that group of, a few hundred people who get this sort of information so that there is a level of transparency. There is somebody aware of the details, and I like that very much. I think it's a great happy medium, and this is connected to the content today because something was happening while I was recuperating that really, really seemed to legitimately upset the people who were telling me about it. And I'm not going to mention any names to prevent further escalation of this situation. But what basically happened was a YouTuber was called out by a game developer who claims to be pro women's issues about her comments related to Resident Evil 3 and the pre-order original Jill Valentine costume bonus, and her not liking that it wasn't exactly the original costume. They changed it from a mini skirt to shorts, and there's two sides to that. One is our whole idea was the nostalgia of it. Don't tell us you're going to give us the original outfit and then change it. And then, of course, the other side of that argument is shut up, pervert. It's the greater good. And I admit personally, I come down on the former side. I think that if they weren't going to give people the original outfit, they shouldn't have promised the original outfit. They should have said it was, evocative of. You don't promise somebody something that encourages them to buy something on pre-order, meaning at launch, meaning you're short-circuiting the review process, and not give them what was promised. The content of what was promised is less significant than the business practice of not delivering on what you promise content-wise. The fact that it's a question of a mini skirt, and there are places where she crawls through places, and I would have either had her wearing shorts under the mini skirt, which a lot of women, myself included, do. There are particular types of underwear that are worn specifically for that purpose. They're like little shorts, so nothing shows no matter what happens. Or put hello pervert on the underwear. Personally, both options would have been totally good and still maintain the truth in advertising principle. Because personally, I really think that a lot of people have a deep nostalgia for various games in the Resident Evil series. I don't have as much fondness for Resident Evil 3 as I do certainly the original Resident Evil, even Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 4 in all its glorious cheesiness. Resident Evil 3 was sort of a valley for me in my interest in the franchise, and that's just a personal thing, right? But personally, I'm not big on the remakes that There was a glorious innocence in those original games that I think made the blood and guts and the violence and the terrifying audio design um, seem like okay, the original Resident Evil scared the shit out of me when I was 15 years old because we had no idea what we were in for. We'd never seen anything like that in a video game, and it slipped in under the ESRB, and so everybody went in cold. It was the night of the living dead of my generation. In terms of people not knowing what they were in for when they went into the experience. But looking back on it, all those really cheesable blood. I hope it isn't Chris's blood. Things like that. And why is it Chris's blood? Because everybody played Jill. And Jill Valentine was like one of the first, whether you want to call her iconic women in gaming or waifus. She was one of the first characters that people felt a real connection to. And I think in part that was because people had the choice to play her. But not only did they have the choice to play her, Jill was basically the one that everybody picked because she started with the 9mm handgun, right? Chris was basically the hard mode to go back and play again. And so it's amazing how choice bonds you to a character. And so a lot of people think that, as it went on, the original incarnations, no, they were perfect. Don't change them. They are what they are. I believe somebody jogged my memory on this, that Jill was going to a party at the beginning of Resident Evil 3, and that's why she was dressed like that. Yes, tube tops and mini skirts were the style, and I think it was 1999 where that came up. It was a dark, dark time in fashion for me. You don't wear tube tops with this, okay? I had one bra I managed to find that actually plastered things in and held them up enough to passably wear something approximating a tube top for maybe 2 to 3 hours at the most. But oh man, I just removed myself from fashion in the 90s because between that oat beige non-color that I look awful in, and tube tops and a lot of these things that just no, it just wasn't happening physically. But I digress. That's a story for now. Actually, I think I just told the story. That's enough about that story. And the focus on my boobs and their inability to manage tube tops. There are physical reasons for that. If you want, I will get into later. People, to me, the ridiculousness of the costume was part of what made it fun, was part of what took it away from, oh, wow, this is really grisly, to this is silly and fun and over the top and hyper real or surreal instead of realistic. And that's where it belongs, because you want to be sort of good grossed out, good scared, not, oh my God, I think this could really happen kind of thing. That the new games haven't embraced in the same way. And it's too bad because, the successive games like Far Cry Blood Dragon show that people embrace that cheese, I think precisely for those reasons. We like getting that sort of visceral thrill. We like the sort of tactics. But, we don't want it to seem like realistic violence. That's not why we play these games. It's important to note that gamers will play Animal Crossing as happily as they'll play something like, Doom or another very ultra-violent game. If the mechanics are good. And it depends on what we're in the mood for. But, hardcore gamers like me, do not gravitate towards violent games. A lot of the times those ultra-violent games just happen to have the best types of mechanics, especially if you're into stealth, right? If you're into stealth mechanics or anything like that, crafting, they usually come alongside a butt ton of violence. And it's almost like our brains don't factor in that violence anymore. It's the inputs, the actual gameplay, the skill that's involved that really gravitates us toward those games. I know certainly that's it with Doom. Um, so I'll leave that there. But getting to the second part of the issue is that protecting the women's is worth calling out somebody with a bad take on a subject like this. This is the really, really important thing I want to take another 10 minutes talking about. Because I had to sit and think about this and think about my own, varying pressures on social media. I'm a big believer in attack ideas, not people. Now, sometimes when you're dealing with ideas, especially when you're talking about ideas that came from personal experience, people insist you provide evidence. And, obviously the fastest way to provide evidence is to take a screenshot and share it. You can take, I tend to crop out any I don't blank out the username. I actually crop that area so it's only the text comments when I share something like that, which is very, very rare, and only to prove that this actually happened. Because unfortunately, there are some people that still challenge me on whether or not I'm telling the truth about these things. I have decided I'm not going to do that anymore. That I think I've earned the right to be treated as credible at this point. It's not worth doing that anymore. No more screen grabbing tweets except from major public figures like politicians and big name actors and things like that, because the potential for blowback is too high. It is not, I have determined based on this, in service of the greater good to do this. And it's interesting because the arguments of the people who did it to this this particular YouTuber who happened to be female, who had the issue with the Resident Evil 3 short switch out, I'll call it, made me realize that, you know what? Challenging someone's opinion on this. Now, I never did that just because of somebody's opinion. It was bad behavior, that I called out. And I do think that's a different category, but I still think it's not worth doing anymore. Whether somebody likes something a game developer did or not is not worth publicly shaming them, or worse, getting them dogpiled. And apparently this person got hit with 70,000 tweets. Now, some of them were positive, some of them were negative, but, having been there, that's very overwhelming, especially when you're not used to it. And the hypocrisy of claiming that you're against harassment of women online and then doing that knowing you've got a sizable following that is probably going to go nuts on them. And in part of that going nuts on them was taking the screen grab that they didn't totally take out identifiable characteristics such as hair color. It made it easier to find and verify the identity of this person to dogpile them. And the people who did this said that, oh no, they took enough steps that it wasn't a direct thing. They didn't make it easy. Therefore, it's okay. And I'm like, yeah, okay, wait a minute. No, it's not okay. Why is it not okay? Because people still managed to find this person based on the information they were given. They were motivated to find this person because of this group identity as the defenders of women in gaming on the internet. And so they were there was a reward. They got something actively out of attacking this woman this way. Now, to be clear, I keep saying happened to be a woman because I think it would be equally wrong to do it to anybody of any other gender, because all they were doing was expressing their opinion and letting people know there had been a swap. They were not saying anything about a broader concept. They were just saying, I don't like this. And I think everyone should be able to say, I don't like this, without getting bombarded with nastiness. Even with all the support, that much nastiness, especially now when everybody else is when everyone's pretty much in lockdown and everybody's having additional stress, as is. That's part of the reason I got so sick, was stress. That is especially not cool. Really, really not cool. And the thing is, I know the people involved in this meant well. I still think they were wrong. I do not think the greater good is served by attacking somebody on an issue like this. Now, do I think the greater good is served for attacking anybody? There are certain things that are, there are social consequences to certain behavior, and that is always going to be the case, right? If somebody is caught abusing a child, I think we all agree they deserve to become a social pariah, right? There should be more shame in abusing your intimate partner than there is. Though some of that is the, I don't want to get involved because I don't know who's telling the truth. Fair, but you see signs of it right in front of you. Shunning is the right move. Like shunning the abusive partner, I think that's totally fair. But somebody's opinion over a feature of a video game, that doesn't go high enough. It doesn't. And I think we all have to be more careful, especially those of us who care very deeply about these issues. Now, I made it clear that I don't think this is we have to protect the women's issue. This is a thing about it's financially better for gaming if the largest possible pool of consumers feel welcome. That's where I come from with it. It's a business, it's a pro-business thing for me. It's not women are helpless little things that need to protect ourselves from these horrible, no. It's an online thing. I have not seen any evidence that gaming is worse this way than comic books, certainly not comic books, politics, mommy blogging, anything like that. If it's on the internet, this is an internet-wide problem of people deciding to dogpile people. I mean, look at what happens when Justin Bieber started dating a girl or broke up with a girl or something with Taylor Swift or something with One Direction. Any of those bands, people went crazy on people who were just having a life and living their life, and it happened to be in public, and that's ridiculous. But that was just as bad as a lot of the stuff we saw in gaming. And I do think that there is a real issue with encouraging people too much towards being afraid instead of just being, this is really loud and inconvenient, and can I please have my social media experience back? Thanks very much. But I really do believe that the right course forward is that if you have issues with an idea, express your own opinion. Like I did today, I'm going to talk about this topic. I'm going to present the other side. I'm going to give my opinion and explain why I support that opinion. This is not personal. This is a battle of ideas. Instead of going, this person has a bad take, go get them. It's, here's why they're wrong, and here's what I think a viable alternative is. So what that does is it channels people's energy into that viable alternative instead of just sicking them on on a person because you hit that emotional button and that emotional energy has to go somewhere, right? And that's what I don't like about this practice. This is not good opinion, public opinion writing, as I was taught. This isn't even good entertainment in terms of my experience in the business for half my life now. More than half my life. Oh, God. But it certainly gets you a lot of attention, and it certainly gets you a lot of clicks because of the way online algorithms work. And that is a choice I deliberately make. I do not chase that stuff. That is a deliberate choice for me. This is why Patreon is so important. This is why, when I do podcasts and plug the merchandise and all that stuff, that's super important because there has to be a way to monetize this sort of content without making other people miserable. It has to be positive optioning, not negative optioning. People have to want to opt in because they find you interesting and or entertaining, and or aggravating in a good way, not because you're just attacking the usual suspects and giving them that emotional catharsis. It's not right. It doesn't actually, like, if someone's just a troll, and they don't care if they're making people miserable, they just want attention. Obviously, there are moral issues there, but there's no ethical or logical conflict in attitudes and desired outcomes and behaviors. In the case of you want to make things better for people on the internet, in this case, especially women, well, this sort of conduct doesn't get us there. It gets us in the opposite direction because what happens when someone has a strong opinion about something and it swings on the other side? It's sex negative instead of sex positive, right? They don't like that a woman is having fewer clothes on her redesign than more clothes, right? Whatever you feel about that stance, you have now indicated it's okay to dogpile someone because you're on the other side of that opinion. And that is not right. These are video games. These are things designed for fun. Not all of them succeed, but we shouldn't be making each other miserable about stuff that's supposed to be fun. And I think that if we kept that mantra in our heads, everything would get better for everybody because you know what? We'd start listening to each other more. And I think I'm going to do a follow-up video tomorrow on that. But I hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy this and you're not laid off right now, your support is greatly appreciated. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.